Here, Jordan Peterson is having a conversation with Mohamed Hijab, who's like a public debater. He describes himself as obviously a Muslim, as you'll be able to see from the video. And he's talking about the issue of the idea of expansionist wars or even defensive wars, but wars really where you're trying to take over the world, which is really what the Islamic mission ultimately is from a religious point of view. And you can hear how this guy, Mohammed, speaks about not only the expansionism, but the belief that the success of their expansion that they did have was miraculous. That means it's divine, which gives it more validity. And when Jordan Peterson asks him what happened when they reached the borders of Europe and were no longer able to continue to expand, how does he explain that with his miraculous definition? He sort of is stunned and stumped. Watch this brief conversation, which is really interesting to see.
It presents us with a problem, doesn't it? I mean, it presents everyone with a problem. And the problem is, well, for example, the problem is reconciling the idea of turning the other cheek with the idea of a just war, a defensive war, or an expansive war for that matter. And of course that issue is relevant to Islam because Islam exploded outward and produced the biggest empire the world had ever seen in the space of a few short centuries.
Yeah, but Dr. Jordan Peterson.
So then you ask, well, what's the spirit? What is the spirit that animated that? And is that attributable to the Islamic doctrines themselves? Yes, I don't know the answer to that.
No, let me tell you the answer to that, okay? And this is what I want to tell you conclusively, and this will help build bridges, honestly, because we can maintain the warlord thesis, we can maintain the expansionist thesis, but here's what I'll tell you. Islam has a capability to be expansive, and it also has a capability of making peace treaties. And it does, and it should do whatever's in its best interest, just like every country should do whatever's in its best interest. In the pre-modern world, we did not, I think this is highly anachronistic. In the pre-modern world, there was no such thing as the UN. It was a realist international relations framework whereby everybody was fighting everyone. The Roman Empire didn't care about it didn't care about you, quite frankly. It was expanding itself. The Persian Empire was expanding itself. And the Arabian Peninsula was in between both. And so it could have either been swallowed by those two other empires, or it could decide to, in fact, we will impose our government on them before they impose it on us. And it decided the former rather than the latter. It decided to expand. And in fact, the Prophet, in his weakest of times, he predicted that would happen. You know, there was one war in particular where they were starving, and it's called Khandaq. And he hit a rock and he said, Futihat Rum, the Roman Empire has been conquered. He hit a rock again. He said, Futihat Faris, that the Persian Empire has been conquered. And then he knocked the rock again. He said this in his weakest moment. He said that the Yemen has been conquered. I see that the expansion of the Islamic Empire is a proof for Islam. And you know, it's not just me. Even historians say this. Barnaby Rogerson, he said the fact that Islam spread to the Roman Empire and the Persian Empire is equivalent to is equivalent to Eskimos taking over Russia and America. I believe it's miraculous, if anything, that this happened. I don't think it's unjustifiable. I think actually Jordan Peterson, to be
then
completely
why
honest
did
with
it
you,
stop at Europe's borders, so to speak? If it was a miraculous expansion,
yeah, it stopped out because of it wasn't successful there. It wasn't. It stopped where it couldn't go further.
Yeah, what suddenly happened to his miracle when they got to Europe? The point that he makes that every nation should do what is in its best interest has some validity to it. However, when the best interest, what is in the best interest of a particular country is expansionism and taking over the entire world, well, guess what? The other nations of the world will put an absolute stop to that, which and unfortunately, few of those nations have the strength to do that. Israel's doing that, and now America's in the position to do that as well. And that's what must be done to a group of people whose best interest is that we must take over the entire world and get them to believe all of the ideology and dangerous ideology that we believe in.